morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our live Q&A. This is something that we do regularly every Monday, 12 p.m, whatever platform you're on. And it's basically just a space for you to come with any and all gardening questions, any problems that you're having with a particular plant, if there's something that you want to learn more about, if you have a garden project that you're working on, you want some tips, anything and everything. We're going to run this for 45 minutes today. So if you want to make sure your question's going to get answered, comment it now. I just read it off in chronological order from the different platforms. So if you are commenting a question now, it's definitely guaranteed to get answered. How are you doing today, Chris?
Great, thanks.
Amazing. I can already see a surplus of questions coming through, so I'm going to jump right into it so we can answer as many as possible. We're going to start off with lush plant recommendations for a garden with no shade.
That's a real toughie, because what it is, a lot of your, often an indication that a plant wants to be in the shade is the fact that it has great big luscious leaves. But for so lots of things that you see that have luscious leaves really want to be in the shade and not out in the sun. But here's a few, and I can't think of that many, but first of all, your old tiger grass, which is kind of a bamboo-like thing, and it has great big lush leaves. Your giant bird of paradise, great big leaves, loves the hot sun. Your bird of paradise, your, not all your different philodendrons, but your Xanadu is particularly sun hardy. And then getting away from, and then there's your canna lilies, and there's like your tropicanas with the big red orangey leaves, great big lush, very tropical looking. And then I've got a golden tropicana which has green and gold leaves. That's very sort of classy looking but very big and leafy and lush. So that's a few plants. I'll just recap that: bird of paradise, giant bird of paradise, tiger grass, Xanadu philodendron, and your tropicana canna lilies.
Amazing, some really great options there. On to the next question from Sonny. What can I plant in a north-facing front yard?
Well, a lot of people, the problem a lot of people have with a north-facing yard is heat. And I did a garden design for a customer with that problem the other day. And what I did was down the end of the yard, I put silver birches. Now, silver birches are fabulous for kind of cooling the environment. What they do is that they shed their leaves in the winter. They let the winter sun in. So say at the end of this garden, we put a nice sort of wobbly, sort of foresty kind of row of them, and what they're going to do is they're going to let the winter sun in, and then in summer, dappled shade, and kind of they give off lots of moisture, so they sort of exude moisture and coolness, and so that they'll change the environment of that north-facing backyard and make it cooler for the summer, and still be nice and sunny in the winter. I use them as a bit of a climate moderator, so really good for your north-facing backyard.
Perfect. Next one is from Brendan, and they would like to know your thoughts on the Wollemi pine growing in Melbourne.
Wollemi pine. No worries. It's fine in the Melbourne climate, and you can just put it out in the yard. moderate amount of water required. Dig up a nice big, make a nice big hole, mix some good stuff through the soil, and it'll be fine.
Perfect. Next one's from Wendy. If I pull out 2 lily pillies that are dying because of the beetles, can I replant something else there?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. The lily pillies, unless you spray them, once you get those beetles into your lily pillies, unless you spray them, they keep chewing and chewing away at the leaves. So the plant can't defoliate, and as we're saying here, they die. Now, what you can do is that they're spraying them, like if you've already got your lily pilly hedge that's being eaten by beetles, you can spray with a you need a systemic spray. You might have to spray a couple of times and you'll clean them up, and then you might have to spray again occasionally. But the other alternative is to replant with something that doesn't need that sort of thing, that is not being eaten by the beetles. And there are types of lily pilly that the beetles don't eat. They don't eat weeping lily pilly, and they don't eat any of the lily pillies in the Smithi family. So things like your Smithi minor, I think it's cherry, your cherry one. There's various lily pillies that they don't eat, and I mean, you could just ask if you ask my staff here, they'll be able to direct you to ones that they won't eat. We're bringing out a new version of Neighbours Be Gone in this season, and it'll be one that the beetles and the psyllids don't eat. So there's lily pilly alternatives, but then there's things like, depending on where you are, there's things like Portuguese laurel, there's things like sweet viburnum, Photinia, and they're all fast-growing evergreen hedges that'll do the job of a lily pilly without being eaten by beetles. So if you've got the beetle problem, you can spray and maintain your hedge. You can replace your hedge with a lily pilly that the beetles won't eat, or with a non-lily pilly.
Amazing. And we do have an article on the website, just at Chris's blog, about this problem. And we also have a video on our YouTube channel too, if you want to see a real live example of those 2 different varieties, one where the beetle is eating the lily pilly and one where it isn't. Next question is going to be from Harley. Hi, I live in Queensland and I have a beautiful Spanish magnolias. Do they need to be pruned, and when should I do it?
Right after flowering. So when they finish flowering, although those ones tend to flower a bit right through the summer. So I think sort of mid-spring would be the best time, and that way they've got plenty of time to sort of shoot and regenerate through the summer.
Perfect. All right, next one is going to be from DJ. Hi, I live in Tassie. We have a pool and I would like to plant some tropical looking plants.
Right, okay. So I was just talking, often people put their pool in the sun, and that means you want tropical looking sun, but able to take your Tasmanian frost, and that would mean like your giant bird of paradise, your bird of paradise, your tiger grass, would all give you that, and of course your Tropicana canna lilies in sort of reds and yellows. They'll all give you a lovely tropical effect, and what you would do just to complete that is you could put chalk sticks in between. Now, sort of they're little silvery, succulenty, ground covery things, and they're sort of a bright bluey silver, and those in between, really sort of set off that tropical effect really nicely.
Perfect. Next question is, why is my juvenile finger lime dropping its tiny fruit?
Ooh, it means it's not happy. You might need to repot it into some better potting mix. Use some liquid fertilizer like Power Feed or something like that. Use a little bit of Osmocote as well. Don't overdo it. But so fertilizer. When you water it, really give it a good soak. Put it out in a nice hot sunny spot. So that'd be all solutions that could overcome that. And I'd do all of those things and overcome that stress that it's having.
And let us know how you go. Give us an update. We'd love to hear if your finger lime gets better. Next one is from Lexi, who would love for us to please stock sweet potato vine plants. Do we at the moment?
No, but we'll put that on our P&A list, and next time I'm doing something, I'll talk about availability and that on I think one of our growers do produce them.
Okay.
And
Yeah. So
and now's a great time to put in sweet potatoes. And people don't realise most sweet potatoes are grown commercially in Queensland, but they grow fine in our climate here. And the sweet potatoes are kind of a runner that runs all over the place and produces these lovely long tubers under the ground, which are wonderful to eat.
Nice. All right. Maybe if you want to come to our live next Monday, and we can chat about it then again. Next question is going to be Black Creek Botanics. We need a windbreak at our farm, but don't like the look of bamboo. Do you have any recommendations for something quick growing?
Whereabouts is the farm?
I'm not sure. Do you want to just comment quickly again, Black Creek Botanics, where you're located, just because that will help refine our answer. In the meantime, I'm going to ask another question.
Could I just say something? Whether you're in Melbourne or Queensland, have a look at Ulmus jarralensis. And that's Ulmus jarralensis is something that we grow quite a lot in Melbourne. It's not grown in many other places, but it'll grow in over quite a wide area, and it's used around coffee plantations in Central America, and it's a wonderful plant. What it does, it fixes atmospheric nitrogen. So when most windbreaks, where you've got horticultural or cropping country, most windbreaks, as you get close to windbreak, the crop gets poorer because the windbreak is sucking up all the water and nutrients out of that area. But your evergreen alder actually fixes atmospheric nitrogen and improves the ground around it. It's incredibly fast growing. If you plant one that's about 30 centimetres high and keep the grass and weeds away from it and water it like crazy, you can grow it to 5 metres in 1 year, and I've seen it done quite a few times. So amazingly fast growth, doesn't ultimately grow too big, incredibly wind hardy, improves the soil that it's growing in, grows in almost any soil, bit thirsty for water, but evergreen alders would be in most areas in sort of southeastern Australia, right up into the subtropics, is one of the best windbreaks around.
Evergreen alder, sorry, someone just wants me to spell
Proper
it.
name is Ulmus jarralensis, and it's called an evergreen alder.
Alder, like A-L-D-E-R-S.
Ulmus.
Ulmus.
In Latin it's A-L-N-U-S, and alder A-L-D-E-R.
A-L-A...
A-L-D-E-R, yeah. And it's a great alternative to bamboo.
Okay, hold on.
And it's something that should be used a lot more in Australia.
Oh yeah, I see it. They're also, by the way, they're in mid-north coast New South Wales, if that changes your answer at all.
When they said bamboo, I suspected that that's where they were, and they would find that Ulmus jarralensis would grow even better. It grows fabulously here in Melbourne. It will grow even better for them there. And it's something that you probably can't buy up there. You might have to organise to get it shipped up from Victoria, because only Victorians seem to muck around with Ulmus.
Interesting. All right, perfect. Next question is from Jamagrams. I am in USA Pacific Northwest. Pretty wet. Looking for a tall, skinny tree for privacy. Needs smaller root ball if possible. Any suggestions?
Something you can get in the States is we call them a sky pencil here, and it's a Ilex crenata fastigiata, which is what you might need. So I'll say that again, Ilex crenata fastigiata, and that grows 3 or 4 metres tall at 70 or 80 centimetres wide, used extensively for hedging in Japan, available in the US, and has a small root ball and will take your sort of wet, cool, humid climate.
Perfect. All right, next question is Manny B. My Papavoya, this is going to be hard, Papavior, somniferum is not doing well in my garden.
We'll have to look that one up and study it up.
I'm gonna look it up. Hold on.
Lost me there.
It's lost me as well, actually. All right, let's see. That is.
Let's go on to the next one while you study that one up.
Do you have any lilac plants suitable for a pot?
Yes, I think all lilac, all of your lilacs are great for pots. There is one of my growers is doing a little miniature lilac. So if somebody only had a small to medium-sized pot, I can get a little miniature lilac. It has little miniature lilac flowers, and it's really gorgeous. It's a beautiful pink miniature lilac, and I don't have them in stock, but I can get those in for a person wanting a lilac in a small pot. But if you wanted to have, say, a 1.5 or 2 metre lilac in a pot, we've got lots of beautiful sort of classic big flowering lilacs with that lovely lilac fragrance. And lilacs are incredibly tough, easy trees to grow.
Great. By the way, it's opium poppy is the plant, the one that's not doing well in their garden.
So opium poppy needs a beautifully cultivated soil, plenty of water, plenty of fertilizer, and plenty of hot sun. So I would say that if you just do all the basics, cultivate the soil well, reasonable fertilizer, the places where people grow opium poppies are generally quite fertile, warm, sunny, spring, summer.
Great.
And so water, fertilizer, and good deep cultivation.
Yep.
And plenty of sun.
Indy would like to know if there's any way to tell the difference between a lemon/lime tree.
Do you know that what I do, you could do this sort of scientifically, but what I do is I crush the leaves. And do you know that lime leaves smell like lime fruit when you crush them in your hands, and lemon smells like lemon? Now, if you're not really confident about that, what you do is cut a lemon or cut a lime, crush the leaves, and then smell them together, and you'll work it out. But they're quite distinctive, and oranges smell like oranges. Like all of the citruses seem to smell like they're fruit. And so when we get the citruses mixed up here, I can't tell which variety of lime it is, but I can certainly tell if it's a lime or a lemon or an orange by just simply crushing the leaves.
Interesting, good tip.
And if you weren't confident about it, you'd cut the fruit, have the fruit on hand, and then check it with your nose, and you'd have it.
Yeah. Next is from Kaisley. Hi, I live in Tasmania and I'm looking for ideas for good native driveway trees. Any suggestions?
Tasmania is not that different a climate to Victoria, and my partner and I bought a farm, and we inherited with that farm. We got beautiful, and I love them. They give off the most beautiful smell. Is lemon scented gums, and that's in Shepparton, and we have reasonably severe frost. I think frost go down to about -4, and they'll handle that level of frost. They'll handle our hot summers, and we never water them or anything like that, and they do beautifully. So lemon scented gum is a really, really good native, and a beautiful, magnificent. As they get older, they get beautiful, magnificent, smooth white trunks.
Perfect. Brendan would like to know, is there any large screening plants that will grow in shade?
Yeah. I've got two that I use here. One is the cherry laurel, which I noticed it grows wild. It's a little bit of a weed. It comes up in bird droppings up in the hills where I come from, and I noticed that it does really thick and bushy and really nice right under the eucalypt forest up in the Dandenongs, and which upsets a few people. But that's a lovely lush green, fast growing, big hedge or screen. And then the other one is the sweet viburnum. And sweet viburnum, I've never seen them growing wild anywhere. Sweet viburnum, and again a big lush green leaf similar to the cherry laurel. And where the cherry laurel will do 6 or 7 metres, your sweet viburnum 4.5 metres would pull it up, depending on how good the country is. So both of them fast growing, and both of them love the shade.
Yeah, perfect. Sonny wants recommendations for flowering plants through most of the year for a north-facing front yard.
Okay. I could retire if I had something that flowered all year. I'd just put it out there and they'd be all they'd buy off me. Back half of the year, French lavender. French lavender seems to flower longer than nearly every other lavender, and it's readily available. And it's particularly pretty blue and lovely, sort of grey, sort of silvery leaves. So French lavender, 9 months a year of flowering. Mexican sage, 8 or 9 months of flowering. And that's sort of autumn, winter, spring that those ones do it. So that's a very dull time of year, very, very long flowering. Your silver bush starts flowering back part of winter and flowers pretty much till Christmas. So good long flowering there. Your blue convolvulus that starts flowering in the middle of September and flowers through to well after Mother's Day. And that puts on incredible sheets of fabulous blue flowers. You can get it in a white. And then your carpet roses, particularly your pink, your sort of fiery, rich coloured pink, your soft pink and your white, all of them flower 5, 6, 7 months of the year, depending on the climate and where you are. All of those are evergreen. And so they're some of my favourite long flowering plants. So sum it up, carpet rose, blue convolvulus, it's hard going backwards, carpet rose, blue convolvulus, Mexican sage, and French lavender, all great long flowering plants. And if you put them up, if you bought all of those plants and put them all together, you'd have flowers, heaps of flowers 365 days a year.
Sounds pretty good. All right, next one is from Kathy. Are there any Japanese maples that do well in direct sun in Queensland?
Well, it would depend where you were in Queensland. There's areas in Queensland where, and the sun in Queensland isn't really going to be the problem, because I don't think the sun in Queensland is as hot or savage as the sun here in Melbourne. But your problem in Queensland is your steamy summer. So it'd be where, it'd be up in the higher country where you're going to safely, I reckon somewhere around, so it'd be a higher country like Mount Tamborine where you could safely grow them, and all along the high parts of the ranges. And generally speaking, I think that you could be in trouble anywhere, you know, from the top part of northern New South Wales, sort of right up into Queensland. When you're in that low coastal area and you're going to get those sort of hot, steamy, wet summers and things, I think you're going to be in trouble with a lot of different Japanese maples. Now, what's interesting, a lot of people like Japanese maples because they're weeping, and weeping trees that you could try up there would be like your weeping mulberry and your weeping pagoda or Sephora japonica. They're weeping trees that you could use, and your trident maple would be, as a Japanese maple, would be perhaps a hardier alternative to put it up into that sort of Brisbane area. But basically, Japanese maple safest in the high country like Mount Tamborine.
Perfect. Next one is from Trop Crop. Fast growing medium tree to cover an ugly wooden side fence.
So if we're just covering the fence, we don't need anything real big. Something I really like is Dodonia, and you've got your purple Dodonia, but Dodonia Mr. Greensheen, sort of lovely and upright, really lush, dense foliage, hardly needs any water, takes frost, heat, drought, crook soil, whatever you want, and grows like crazy. A really good, if I'm doing a garden design and I need a green wall that's unbelievably tough in maybe tough conditions, not going to get much water, needs to cover the fence real quick, Dodonia Mr. Greensheen or purple Dodonia, fabulous plants.
Perfect. S. Griffey has citrus gal wasp in my lemon tree still despite earlier pruning. Have seen 3 wasps in my backyard in the last week. Do I assume they're from my tree? Should I remove the tree?
Lemon trees aren't that expensive, and unless it's a fabulous lemon tree, you might consider just replacing it. I'd start off by looking over my fence and seeing if there's a badly infected tree just over the fence. I'd get a box or something, look over the fence, and I'd check out the situation, because, and one thing is that I've got one customer, and he's a hard-working, kind of fanatical kind of a person, and he reckons he's got the best lemon tree in Melbourne, and he's got this lemon tree that's really big, really attractive, and produces masses and masses of lemons. And it got the gall wasp in it. At any rate, he chopped it real hard, and he worked persistently at it. And he's got, last time I looked at it, it had been free of gall wasp for a couple of years. So it's not easy to fix, but it can be fixed. So he was particularly attached to his lemon tree. He didn't believe he could buy a better lemon tree anywhere. This particular lemon tree seemed to be freakishly heavy fruiting and fast growing, and it was just everything he wanted. So he took the trouble and fixed it, and it can be done. And he's now got a beautiful, big, fabulous lemon. So in terms of replacing and fixing, I'd be checking out, and it might be that you have to cooperate with your work together on it, because if you've got a badly infected tree over the fence, you're not really going to get anywhere.
Sounds good. Hopefully that situation can be fixed. Let us know how it goes. Next one is, does elder have bad rooting like bamboo?
Bad rooting like bamboo. Possible. Well, I'm very loath to put it near somebody's house or foundations. The roots are very strong and very, very aggressive. Yet I've grown it around horticultural crops, and it's been a fabulous wind shelter, and it's actually those roots going through the crop actually encourage the crop to grow because of the nitrogen fixing characteristics. So bad if you're putting it next to somebody's septic, or you're putting it next to somebody's house, or you're putting it close to some beautiful paving that it could break. It's very aggressive. But out in the field, used as a horticultural shelter, the roots actually are still aggressive, but they have a positive benefit. So it's just a matter of understanding it and using it correctly.
Perfect. Naz Mazalim would like to have advice on a hedging plant to hide their ugly wooden fence. It has no shade, west facing. Looking for something fast growing, green and lush, and maybe also give some shade for the yard.
Okay, so I was saying Mr. Green Sheen, and Mr. Green Sheen said you could buy a 6-inch pot, water and fertilise it, and I reckon in 12 months have it up to fence height. So very, very fast, very, very tough, hot sun, no problems. So that's one good one. But let me think of something else. Really fast, hot sun. Yeah, and fast and tough. Another native, and it's makes a beautiful hedge, is your copper glow tea tree. And it's not copper; it's sort of purple coloured, lovely fine foliage, white flowers in the purple foliage. You see it out around Ringwood and out that area. It seems to be really popular as a sort of a low to medium hedge, but really fast and tough and very, very good hedge. So copper glow tea tree. And for green, Mr. Green Sheen, at the Donia Mr. Green Sheen.
Perfect. Megs would like to know if we stock Eden Rose and when is a good time of year to plant. I'm in NE Victoria, or Northeast Victoria.
So Eden.
Yeah. Eden Rose.
I'm going to have to look that up amongst our suppliers. I'm not sure. We probably do, but I think we'll answer that next time we go to air, I think.
Eden Rose. Let's see if it's on it's not on our website. So likely not, but if you want to come again next week, we can try and look into that.
We'll do what we call people looking for plants. We've got people researching all the time, looking for plants all over Australia, and we call it a P&A, a price and availability, and we do 40 or 50 of them a day, and we can do that with the Eden Rose.
Yeah, so just if you want to hop on the website, send us through an email. We can look more into that. Next one is from Anshu. I have a south-facing backyard with hardly any sun in winter, but hot sun in 2 to 3 months in peak summer. Not sure what to plant there.
Right. I wonder if you're wanting like a nice little, no sun in the winter. So your deciduous, there's lots of deciduous plants that things like a snowball bush doesn't require any winter sun because it's dormant in the winter. And then in springtime, it's covered in these beautiful white, fluffy, height-arranged like balls of flower. And Weigelia. Weigelia is one of my favourite shrubs, and your Weigelia is bare in the winter, happy in winter, sort of zero sun situation, and then just a massive colour in spring, summer, and autumn. Beautiful pink and white flowers, yellow and green leaves turning to yellow and pink leaves in the autumn. So Weigelia variegated and snowball bush. And what else? All of your there's things like your mock orange would also be good in that sort of thing. Your Mexican mock orange, which has a beautiful, or Philadelphia, a beautiful white fragrant flower, and your spirea. We did a video on spirea. There's your double spirea, masses of white flowers in early spring. Happy in a sort of a sunless winter and a hot sunny summer. No worries.
Great. Next question is how to handle peacock plants.
I don't even know what a peacock plant is.
Let me do a quick Google search while I do that.
Got another question, yeah.
Next is from Daniel. How far apart should I plant skyrockets?
Okay, if you wanted to make a wall of them, you'd put them about 1 metre apart, but I often use them in my garden designs on either side of the house, you know, along the side of the driveway fence there, because they're a nice, tall, narrow plant that doesn't mind a prune, soft, that, you know, not bad to rub the car door up against. And when you do them in a bit of an avenue, and you put some plants in between them, it's nice to have them 1.8 or 2 metres apart and have them just sort of punctuate the landscape rather than just make a wall out of them. So 1.8 or 2 metres with other plants in between. And something I love to plant in between them, because of their lovely blue foliage, is something like an Abelia kaleidoscope, which has beautiful bright golden foliage, and that between the blue foliage of the skyrocket planted a couple of metres apart looks fabulous.
Perfect. That's the peacock plant, if you can see that there.
That's right. I call that a prayer plant. But I can see that it has a pattern like a peacock, and basically good potting mix, bit of Osmocote or bit of dip it, like when you water it. Like a good way of watering them is to actually sit them in water every, say, week or 10 days, depending on how hot it is inside the house. But actually sit them in water, and you could put a little bit of fertiliser, a little bit of something like Power Feed into that water that they're sitting in, and let them soak for an hour or two, then let them drip dry on the sink for a couple of hours, and put them back out into the house. So fertiliser, repotting, and a nice warm bright window, but not hot direct sun.
Yeah. And just letting people know we've got 15 minutes left of the live, so make sure to get your questions in so you get them answered. Next one is, when prepping the yard for planting, what to do after spraying Roundup concentrate?
Right, okay. So my process, say you've got a weedy or grassy area and it's being turned into a garden bed, maybe for vegetables, maybe for ornamental plants. I had a customer the other day, and his ground had all been beat up with earthworks and everything like that, but you could see it was seething with green weeds down deep. Now I told him to water those weeds and get them really growing and looking good, and wait a couple of weeks and then spray. So the first thing is as we get into summer and grass is looking a bit crook, you might water and fertilise your lawn or your weedy area and get it, because the healthier plants are, the better their take-up of Roundup. So a couple of weeks of preparation might be in order for you. So you want them really healthy, and then it seems cool, you get them all pumped up and going, and farmers have been known to fertilise and irrigate fields before they spray. And then, so get them looking good, spray with the Roundup, then you leave that and you do your Roundup in, you know, warm, sunny, non-rainy weather, and then leave it for 48 hours, and then what I do is I put my mower on its bottom setting and I mow it hard against the ground, mow it down so hard that there's bits of dirt and rock flying around, and then so you mow it, and then you've got it ready to dig, and then I dig it over, and I love that idea of putting the shovel in all the way and dig, turn, smash. And if you've watered and made it moist and soft and easy to dig, it's easy to do that dig, and you dig it shovel deep, and you dig, turn, smash. You add compost, new soil, mushroom compost, whatever it is that you're going to add to improve the soil, you add that, maybe a bit of lime if you need it, and then you dig, turn, smash one more time, rake it with a steel rake, and you should be able to plant.
Yeah, great. Next question is from Katie. I planted baby boomer hedges, very small ones, and haven't seen any growth in 3 months. Is there anything I need to do?
Okay, what it is, they were never going to grow till the warm weather came. Now we're in the growing zone, we're in the growing time. And what would be important is to get, and this would apply not just to baby boomers, but to almost anything, we've now hit the growing season, and to get the best out of that growing season, regular, not squid them a squirt every night, but regular good deep watering so that they feel that it's time to grow. Get rid of the grass and weeds, and fertiliser like Osmocote around the base, And if you're real keen to get them growing, a bit of liquid fertiliser early in the morning or the evening when the evaporation rate is low, liquid fertiliser really does boost growth. But the more you can do at this time of year, the better you're going to do, because you've got a good long growing season ahead of you.
Yeah. Kathy is trying to cover her garden bed in lime lava. What's the best way to achieve this / propagate?
You know, I buy it as little tubes, and I've never really propagated it. It's a lot of those. What you could do, if you want to propagate yourself and do it, what's almost identical to lime lava is, and lime lava doesn't break up and divide very well. It's sort of one of those round green mossy plants, but we sell Irish moss. And now your Irish moss, I started off with only a few pieces of it a bit over a year ago, and I've got thousands of them now, and I've sold heaps of them too. And your Irish moss breaks up beautifully. You just break it up as you would any sort of small perennial plant. So you can get a 3-inch pot and you can chop it up into 5 or 6 pieces and then pot them up and grow them on. And so if I wanted to propagate a moss-like effect, I would use the Irish moss ahead of the lime lava if I wanted to propagate it myself, because the lime lava is always that little bit more expensive, a little bit harder to get, and it's because I think it's a little bit harder to propagate.
Yeah. Next one is from Dopey Doe. Looking for most affordable climbing fruit plants to climb 6 meters, and also ground covering plants that will attract bees. We live on the central coast of New South Wales.
So climbing fruit plants, you could try kiwi fruit, blackberries and raspberries.
And also a ground covering plant that will attract bees.
Ground covering, Myoporum, fabulous. Particularly like the fine leaf Myoporum just flowers all summer long, and the smell of the flower is like honey, and they have little tiny flowers all summer long, and the bees love them.
Yeah. Izzy has 2 jacarandas in pots about 2 meters tall. Can I cut the trunks? I want large bonsais.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
Cool. Brian is planting a star jasmine in clayish soil. How wide and deep should I make the hole?
Star jasmine in clayish soil. I look, the bigger the better. And I think at a minimum I'd do it 50 centimetres wide and 30 centimetres deep.
Yeah.
And don't just chuck all that soil away. Mix that soil with some good potting mix.
Yeah. Next one's from Ro. Recommendations for a fast-growing, resilient privacy hedge in backyard Melbourne. Green screen versus backyard bliss.
Okay, backyard bliss wouldn't even make it onto my shopping list. And the problem with backyard bliss is that beetle that we were talking about earlier. And if you had a menu of lily pillies and put the menu out there, say you had a restaurant for those beetles, and they came around and you put out the menu, and they'd look through the menu and they'd go, backyard bliss, let's eat it. They love it. They love it. I think it's their favourite. And so backyard, whereas the green screen is something that I'm getting a grower to mass produce for me, because the green screen is a wonderful fast grower that not only don't psyllids eat it, but the beetles don't touch it. So and it doesn't grow too big. It doesn't really seem to have any vices at all. It seems to me to be perhaps the pick of the lily pillies for hedging.
Perfect.
So,
great. Next one's from Rob. Will the roots of a pink cascade lily pilly damage a retaining wall?
Do you know that depends a little bit on you. If you keep it trimmed and don't let it get too big, it's never going to cause a problem.
Great. Next one is recently planted Heliochrysum petiolare, and leaves are now shriveled up. North-facing garden and watered once per day for the first week, and now every 3 days. Could this be due to too much or too little water?
It's shriveling up, is it?
Yeah, the leaves are now shriveled up.
Ooh. I reckon I've only ever had them shrivel up from not enough water. So, and the thing is, let me talk about watering for a minute. Watering, there's a few things. Watering isn't just a matter of, and I think this is where people water. It's not a matter of pointing the hose at something. And there's some bad problems with watering. First of all, what's become the standard thing in everybody's house is a little tiny half-inch hose and a little tiny gun. And I've seen people out watering their garden, and I've seen that garden's wilting and dying. And what it is, if you get one of those guns and one of those little orange guns and a half-inch hose, and you put it into a bucket and put it on full, you'll find that it'll take over a minute to get 10 litres out. So that means that in a minute you're only putting out 10 litres of water. So if you're out watering a whole front garden, it would take you all day to water it. And so what the first thing to do is, if you've got plants in trouble, is to whip the head off it and just use the hose with your finger on the end, and that'll double your water output. It'll only take you 30 seconds to fill that same thing. But then you can go to a 3/4 inch hose. You can put a beautiful big rosette. We've got information on the website about that. And so watering isn't just a matter of standing there with a hose. It's a matter of putting adequate water out there. And so there's things like very simple things. A lot of people water without turning the tap on full. I put my tap on full. I use a 3/4 inch hose. I use a special rosette that doesn't offer any resistance and really lets the water through. And then, say if a plant's dry, I'll water it, water it quickly, fairly quickly. I won't stand there for ages watering. I'll water it fairly quickly, and then I'll leave it for half an hour and come back and water it again. And if it's really, really dry, I'll do that 3 times. And it seems to be that watering with a space between watering, and so the trick to watering isn't just pointing a hose, it's getting the water in down where the roots need it. And then the other thing, if I was planting something like that helichrysum, I would plant it so that the pot that you got from the nursery, so that soil from the pot was exposed to the air at the top, and the stuff that was used around it was just all around it. So you've got that exposed stuff at the top, and you've got that stuff all around it, so that when the hose does go on it, often people's soil is a bit hydrophobic and the water runs away. And so if you have the potting mix you get from the nursery as the top of the ground level, when the hose goes on, you'll notice the water just goes straight in, and the plant's guaranteed to get wet. So turn the tap on, use the best equipment you possibly can, and then when things are dry, water them a couple of times, and with the space in between, and the water seems to want to go in layers or stages. And I mean, I've been watering plants since I was a little kid on a large scale, and I've found that they're probably the most important things to know. And I guess, although the single most important thing to know is that there's more to watering than just pointing the hose. It's actually a little bit of an art form that requires a small amount of skill and a bit of concentration.
Yeah, exactly. Would you use lucerne as a mulch around strawberries?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it'd be great. It's rich in nitrogen and really good it would help with the fertilizer needs of the strawberry as it rotted down.
Perfect. Amhar has a variegated Japanese maple that's in a large pot on a covered porch. It gets leaf scorch every year. Is there any tips I can do going forward to prevent this, like more water, plant it in the ground?
Planted in the ground would help. Repotting it might help. And when I pot big Japanese maples, I like to use a little bit of natural soil, and I find that really helps with leaf colour and health. But even without repotting it, what happens is that I'd imagine you've had it in the pot for years and years and years. What you would find if you did a test on that pot, you'd find that there's no calcium there. Calcium's water soluble, it washes away. When you bought it and got it at the potting mix, there was probably adequate calcium, but now there's no calcium at all. The very first thing to do would be to put, depending on the pot size, say the pot was 20 inches round, if you put a full kilo of dolomite lime, spread all over that, and then as you water it, let that dolomite lime get washed into the ground, and leave that for a month, and put some Osmocote on it, you'll find you'll get a big pickup in your tree. So repotting, dolomite lime, planting in the garden. When you do repot your maple, I found a little bit of natural soil probably provides some of the minerals and things that they don't put into your potting mix, because soil is much more complex than the man-made potting mix. So a bit of natural soil, all of those things will help with the colour and form of the leaves.
Great. Lost would like to know how to develop my green farm. I can only grow weeds.
I reckon what happens, I get a lot of young people, just built a house or just bought a house, and they come in here and they get me to help them with the garden. And my my philosophy is to give them a win. And now what I mean by that is I've got plants here that are expensive. It's a funny thing, a lot of the more expensive plants are quite hard to grow, and that's why they're more expensive, because it was hard for the nurseryman to grow them in the first place, so he charged a lot of money, and these handed down, they're expensive. And so often what's cheap is easy to grow, and so the way that you give a customer a win is you give them the right bit of advice, you give them some good quality potting mix so that they mix in the right fertiliser, and then you pick out some plants that are bloody easy to grow. And that is your starting point. So if you were to, it depends whether you want to grow a garden or grow veggies, but and actually to look at the basic philosophy or the basic philosophical of what is a garden. I was looking it up in the dictionary one day, and one of the definitions I found is a plot of earth devoted to. So and what I realised is that element of devotion is probably the key element to it's the difference between having a mess of weeds and a garden, is that a person and what they do with the land where they're growing is that there is an element of devotion, and that's what makes a garden. And often you'll see some plants in front of a petrol station and they're there, and you kind of look at it and you think, well, gee, that's not a garden. And you're right, there's no devotion there. Not to say that I couldn't take you to petrol stations that got beautiful gardens, but that's because the boss or the owner actually does put in a little bit of devotion. So I wouldn't say all petrol stations have got cool gardens, but a lot of them do. But really what I'm saying is that to develop a green thumb, you would kind of work on that element of devotion. You'd work on, work up the soil properly, using the right fertiliser, using the right potting mix. And then if you come to somebody like me and say, look, I'm hopeless and everything dies, I'm going to give you a win. I'm going to pick out a couple of plants that are unbelievably easy, because I want you to come back in 6 months and a year and say, gee, I just found out I can grow stuff real good, And if you give people easy things and give them the right stuff, they can grow things good. So the point would be to have a win or have a couple of wins, and then once you've had a couple of, and I've seen people, I've dealt with them, I've had customers, I've dealt with them for 20 and 30 years. And what happens is that you do give them a win, you get them going, and before you know it, they're in here buying rare stuff and they're telling me things I don't know, So it's people. I've created gardeners and created people into green thumbs just by giving them a win, and sort of really handling that element of devotion, I guess.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Well, that's where we're going to wrap it up today. If we didn't get to your question, we do apologise. Unfortunately, we just don't have all the time in the world, as much as we could sit here for the whole day and answer people's questions. But that's why we do it on a regular basis, every Monday, 12 p.m, whatever platform you're on right now. As always, you're more than welcome to come in store and ask our staff your question, or email us or call us, anything like that, or you could just come in next Monday. As if you get in early, you're definitely going to have your question answered. Like I said, I just ask them in a chronological order. And yeah, I think that is it for today. So I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their Monday.
In the morning sun, where the flowers bloom,